and welcome to the Nintendo Switch Online Game Club, the show where we play through the games available on Nintendo's various NSO apps completely at random. I'm your host, Derek Bittner, and in this episode, I'm joined by John Cartwright, fellow member of Good Vibes Gaming, voice actor, and British. How you doing, John?
I'm doing pretty well. Of all those things, being British takes a big toll on you. And I'm sure, as our other guest knows, it's an undertaking, but I'm glad that we put it third on the list. Yeah.
So I've heard. But yes, our other guest, we are also joined by Bloops, YouTuber, editor extraordinaire, and, as John said, also afflicted by the thing that is British.
Hi everyone, it's lovely to be with you. Take the last one off the record, please. I'm very excited for this, and I'm so excited to get into the pick, as maybe you heard in the outro for the latest episode, the previous episode. I've been wanting to get into Earthbound for such a long time, and it's just a perfect excuse, and I'm just too excited to think of anything more humorous, genuinely. I just want to play Earthbound.
I love the excitement because, yeah, just to get the rest of the intro out of the way, as you're both likely aware, there are now over 200 games across the NSO, and while some are widely known like Super Mario Bros. And Zelda, there are some odd picks that could be considered hidden gems. We honestly don't know. Some of us may know, but I honestly don't know. So what we'll be doing is entering all those games into a randomizer, picking one, and then giving our initial thoughts. But this month there's a twist, as it's Patreon request month, and I've entered a special shortlist filled with their picks, something you can still add to right now if you become a patron. And for our third week, the Wheel of Games has chosen, as Bloops has mentioned, the legendary Earthbound. So, what is our experience with Earthbound? And Bloops, let's go ahead and start with you. You said it's your excuse to finally play it.
It's been on my radar for the longest time. I think I initially played it around 2020, I'd say. Nothing related to, being stuck inside. I just thought, yeah, Earthbound today. I didn't get too far. At the time, I think I was just a bit too stubborn with, turn-based combat. I know, boo-hoo for me. But I've evolved since then. I've gone through a lot of science, let's say, and I'm ready to play a turn-based, battle-based, which is every game, but turn-based RPG, and just genuinely enjoy it for the story, for the music, and for the combat. Because prior to this, the only experience I have would be through the demos in Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, but that wasn't really much of the game. It was the opening. I have YouTube for that. I didn't get to experience the actual game for any of its combat, much of its story. I don't think there was even any music other than buzzing.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure in the Smash demo, yeah, it's just you just hear some buzzing and some alien ambience at the start, and I think that's all you really get.
Because all you got was 5 minutes?
I think so.
Oh my god, that's barely any time at all. You get nothing out of that, but yeesh. Well, John, what about you? What is your history with Earthbound?
Well, I think a lot of us learned about this franchise through Smash, because you've got Mario and Link and Samus and Pikachu, and then you've got this kid in a stripy top, and you think who the heck is this guy? Is he a Pokemon character? And then you hear this vocal fan base online being like, "Have you never played Earthbound? It's one of the greats," and you don't believe them. But then it came to Wii U, and I finally gave Earthbound a go, and I adored it so much that if I duck down, for those watching on camera, it's there somewhere in the backdrop, the cartridge.
Nice.
So I loved it so much that I had to get a physical version. I've played Earthbound a few times, both on Wii U and on Super Nintendo. I've dabbled on NSO, but I haven't finished the on Switch before, so this would be my chance to do that. But it's just such a unique game, and it's still very modern in a lot of ways. Like if you go to the shop and you sell the item you have equipped, or sorry, if you buy an item, it'd be like, do you want to sell the one you've got equipped? There's lots of just really cool quality of life things in there. And Bloops was talking about the turn-based nature of it. There's a cool little twist to it because your health just sort of dials back down when you get hit. So if you get hit by a really strong attack, and your health is dwindling down, if you're really quick, you can heal before it reaches 0. So there's some cool layers to that kind of thing.
I
And yeah,
like
I can't
that.
wait to give this a go. Yeah, yeah, there's some really cool stuff in Earthbound.
I've heard about that feature. I never experienced it myself, because much like I'm kind of a combination of both of you, where I, of course, heard about it. Like who the heck is Ness in Smash 64? And I had my friend that had the N64 and Smash at the time actually did have Earthbound, so he showed me a little bit. And this was before I really got into RPGs, or maybe I can't. No, was Smash before or after Final Fantasy VII? Maybe I think after.
Smash was like 99. I
Yeah,
think
so after
7
7.
was
So,
98.
so I was into RPGs, saw Earthbound, but I wasn't impressed because you don't see your characters on screen. You just see the monsters. It just like, it just didn't really click for
It
me at
did
the time.
stink.
It's just one of those things where it's just, I don't know. I didn't appreciate it for what it was doing. But then you start hearing about that rabid fan base online about how this is one of the greatest games, and you see all the articles start talking about it. It's like how it's amazing. So you're like, okay, maybe I am interested in this. And you see the cartridges and how expensive they are. So I didn't experience it until the Wii U. And I only played a little bit. I played enough to get the first party member, which I believe is Paula, I want to say. And I went into the cave. So I think I never got beyond, I think it's Tucson. So I'm still I was still incredibly early in the game. Could see why it was so beloved, and like I was like I'm sort of getting the vibe for why people like this. But also I think I got just one of those classic cases of, hey, you're playing an RPG, but you got called away because of something else and your attention was lost. So you're never getting back to it. So there you go, you lost it. So yeah, I've just never got the chance to go back to it. And I've always wanted to check it out and see how much more I can see of it and enjoy. And I think honestly, I'm going to have a lot more of a appreciation for it this time around, because it seems heavily influenced by Dragon Quest. Like that first person view, the way you attack enemies, way you don't see your characters on screen. It very much comes across as Dragon Quest to me. And I've now, since played the original Dragon Quest, I'm like, oh, I wonder how I'll feel as a comparison point for like modern day Dragon Quest with quirky humor. So I don't know. I'm very curious to get into this one.
That's a good angle. It's also interesting, like Mother as an IP, you think of it as just some niche thing, but it's influenced so many games. Like Undertale is a huge one.
Yeah.
But I'd also say that it influenced Pokemon, like just like modern day town hopping, like just like kids going around this big world. When I played Pokemon as a kid, like it just felt massive to be able to as a child I couldn't like leave my house and explore another town. But in Pokemon you can just do that whenever you want to. But Earthbound beat it to that. So I imagine if you played this way before Pokemon or other RPGs of that ilk, it would stay with you very strongly.
Mm, absolutely. Even has the bike.
Yeah, even has the bike. Yeah.
Where'd you first hear about it, Bloops? Was it? You said it was Smash, right?
So the game that got me into like really being into gaming as culture rather than just some niche little hobby was Smash 64, but I never really managed to unlock Ness because I was bad at the game. But when Brawl came along, obviously accessible, and yeah, pretty much just through Brawl and the Chronicle, and then I saw Earthbound and the other games in the series. I hadn't played them, but I've seen them. I know what Ness is.
Yeah, what the heck? What the heck is a NES?
Isn't that the Nintendo's first home console?
I think so.
Well, technically, it's still a TV game, actually.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
I'm just excited to play the game so I can actually talk about it for more than Smash Bros. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, actually,
that's my
talk
stance.
about the characters and the combat and everything else you get into. I'm curious what the basically what the item limitations will be like, and what the battles like, how much are we gonna have to grind, that sort of thing. Like how cozy is this gonna be? And it's gonna be especially interesting for me because last week I was playing Phantasy Star 4. So we got two 16-bit era RPGs, often considered some of the best on their systems. How am I going to feel about each one in comparison? I'm very curious about that one.
That will be interesting, yeah. Like, which great will cancel out the other. I feel like Earthbound has a tone that's very different to the others, though, so maybe it'll rest on its own.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. But yeah, there's just too much legacy here. And obviously, we eventually got Earthbound Beginnings and still have not gotten Mother 3.
I was wondering where that list was going. It's like there's only one other thing we've got.
I mean, it's just one of those things. It's like Earthbound is so talked about, but Earthbound Beginnings is so not talked about. But Mother 3 is really talked about. So it's just one of those things where it's like this massive, this big trilogy for a lot of people, but it's not really. But it's still sort of resting upon the laurels of this one game, really.
Yeah. I definitely recommend people play Mother 2 before Mother 1. So I think Earthbound's just it's aged really well. And I think if you go back to play Earthbound Beginnings afterwards, you kind of see where everything came from, you appreciate it, but you don't necessarily have to play the whole thing. I think it's just neat to, understand the context of where things originated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm very glad you validated that, because I've been considering finally playing Mother for a while, and I was going to start on Earthbound Beginnings because it's the first one. So I'm really glad you've added that now. Yeah. Not that I can change stuff. I've already committed to this now, but
got to do both.
You said that.
I mean,
it still is a good game.
Both at the same time. Want a Joy-Con?
Yeah. My best guess is it's an NES RPG, and that's everything. That's all it comes with.
Yeah. It is ambitious. It is good, but your time's definitely better spent on Earthbound.
Yeah. So, well, any other thoughts or preconceptions before we jump into Earthbound for the week?
I love the SNES controller.
There we go.
It's a good controller.
It's a good one.
I'm just excited to hear what you guys think of it, to be honest, because I love Earthbound. I just want to gush about it with some people who are getting a fresh take on it.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
Great.
Yeah, let's do it. So we'll be back in no time at all for you guys, but in a week for us. So until then, bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Help for Wonder Kids save the planet from hideous destruction. Venture through 8 mysterious levels to gain power and put an end to the interstellar threat. Beware, the ultimate test is the encounter with a powerful guidance. Save the planet in Earthbound from Nintendo.
And we're back after a week of playing Earthbound for the Super Nintendo. And Bloops, it's your first time playing through this cult classic. So I got to start with you. What did you think?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think the only testament to that is the fact I beat it within 3 days of us saying we'd beat it in 22 hours. So what's that? 72 hours? 22 of those went to Earthbound. A lot probably went to sleeping. I really enjoyed it, and I'm very happy I got to experience it, and I feel good knowing I experienced it along you two of all people.
And you set the record straight, because how long to beat.com were like, oh, it's 30 hours, it's 40 hours, and like this is your first playthrough, and it's just barely over 20 hours. That's how long I thought it was. I thought I was going crazy over here.
I will admit, I used a little bit of Switch Online trickery. Just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Switch Online game club. You're allowed to use the Switch Online trickery. That's fine.
When it came to regular battles, I tried not to abuse it too much early game, but as I got on, if I died in the fight, I thought it was okay to restart to the back, because I'm just saving, backtracking really, not much else. When it came to bosses, if I died, fair game, I'd go back to my last save. But for the regular battle, I would reset if I got too unfair a game over.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I used it a little bit here and there. Nothing too egregious or anything like that. Honestly, I used it a lot until I realized that you could go into the items and actually get an explanation on some items. Sometimes it get clearly laid out, this is what this item does. Other times, like, it does this. And I'll like, all right, I guess I'll try it. Oh, that's what it does. Rewind. I don't want to use that yet.
No, I did the same quite a lot.
It's very odd in that way, but yeah, well, yeah, you beat it. I definitely did not beat it. I got as far as as far as playing as Jeff, which I did not know. That's farther than I originally played. So I actually did get farther than the first time I played way back on the Wii U. But I got to play as Jeff, and I just arrived at his father's lab the first time. So I'm like got pretty close, and I like the difference. I like what they did with Jeff more than I like what they did with Paula, because I think Bloops and I had the same mistake. We didn't actually confirm this, but we'll talk about it eventually. But yeah, John, coming back to Earthbound, how do you feel? Did you enjoy it?
I still had a great time. Now, obviously, I didn't play as much as Bloops did. I didn't finish the game this time around, but I have previously in the past a few times. So I only got to like Tucson, so really early on. I did like the first opening area and then a little bit of traversal, but I was mostly just trying to remember the basics again. And I still love Earthbound. I still think it's just such a fun and quirky little game. And I remember the first time I played it too, I wasn't like familiar with the soundtrack. Like I knew a few tracks from Smash, but like when you get to like Foreside, and Tucson's track as well, a lot of the town tracks, they are just phenomenal. And I think Foreside is used in Melee, right? Or is that
Yes, I believe you're right.
Yeah. Yes. But the hearing on a Super Nintendo though is like a completely different experience, and I wasn't ready for how good the soundtrack would actually be. But yeah, there's so many standout moments, and just returning to it for a little bit just kind of brought it all back to me, and I was starting to remember sequences that I've not experienced in a while just from walking around.
The soundtrack is so odd because I'd sometimes play in bed before going to sleep for the night, and I'd have it on, and I get this commentary from Amy next to me saying like, "Oh, that song's pretty good," and I'd be like, Paula's theme, but then I get into a battle like just all these weird noises. Yeah. She's like, "What the hell is that?" It's just like right. didn't quite get it. But then there'd be actually good battle theme going on, and it's one of those things where like I feel like certain songs you have to be playing the game in order to get the full effect of them, because it is a soundtrack that's trying to convey a vibe.
Absolutely. Like, there's some areas where it's just sort of atmospheric sounds, which not many Super Nintendo games do that. It's a very different game for its era, and there's a lot of like quality of life stuff that's quite outside of its era. Like we discussed previously, but like when you buy something from the shop, it asks you if you want to equip it and then sell the previous item. Or if you're more powerful than an enemy and you walk into them, you'll just beat them outright. And obviously like, there's no random encounters. It just feels ahead of everything.
Got such a modern feeling from it that, other RPGs at the time don't do, but are completely standard now. And I think beyond gameplay elements, one of the biggest things I noticed was the language of the game. Like, I believe one of the battle effects, I think it was defensive options, specifically said you can layer effects by keep repeating it. And that's a small thing, but just felt very modern and separate from other RPGs of the time.
Yeah, like if you remade Earthbound, I'm not entirely sure like what you would modernize mechanically. Like, even like when you interact with people, like for the first time, I think for like my first 10 hours, I didn't realize you could just press L to like quickly interact. So I was pulling up that menu every time. I
that for a long time.
I see. Right. Thankfully, I remembered that. I was searching for the button when I first started playing, because I remember. I think there was like at least on the Wii U, a breakdown of like this button does this, and I remember seeing a like interact button on the L. Like, oh, cool, I'll remember that, and it saves so much time. Like that is a really good idea, to the point where it's like, why bother having the talk option? Why won't you just make A do that?
I think the only thing that I would maybe remedy in a remake would be the running speed, because there's no running. You get a bike, but then like once you get party members, though, you can't use the bike, so it just becomes kind of useless.
You get the bike in Tucson, and you also get Paula there, so you can't really use it long.
I just realized I forgot to go back to the bike shop and get a bike, but now it's useless, so whatever.
Early game, I instead of using items or the hotel, I would go back to Ness's house quite a lot to recover. And this extended to when I got to Tucson. So I didn't know I could unlock the bike at this point, and when I finally did, I think I was like, yeah, I'm leveled up enough and don't need to go back to Onett. I'll just get Paula now. Not really realizing gotta get Paula, it's just that's the direction I'm going, to Happy Village. Oh, I got Paula now. Can't really use the bike anymore. That was a bit pointless.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate thing, but man, you were not kidding when it came to the Pokemon feeling, John, because it really does feel like just this adventure as a kid, but also very strange in the kid because like adults have this reliance on you because like, you can't go to Tucson until you defeat our 5 elite cops. And it's like, what the hell? Why? Why are we beating up cops to do all this? But it just heavily reliant on these other things. But there's that quirkiness through it where it's like, oh, it's very childish that it works in that way. But then you get to certain sections that are like, this is kind of freaky. Like, oh, there's zombies everywhere in Threed. You get captured and I found this one cave in that I couldn't go any further in. It's Stonehenge, just Jeff, and I'm like, what the what is up with this? Like, it definitely like gets a darker feeling as time goes on.
Yeah.
To be fair, a lot of that's set out in the first 2 areas. The gang in Onett. Let's not really try to think about what the character designs are sort of depicting. And then, of course, in Tucson and the Happy Village, there's the allusion to another thing I think is best just to avoid describing directly.
Yeah.
So it gets sort of mature in I suppose the language and the storytelling itself gets mature, but the mature elements in the visual design are there from quite early on. For worse in this case, to be fair.
I will say a lot of it's funny looking at a lot of the faces and they're just drawn on happy faces. Like the character designs are not always the best. I got a kick out of like, before Ness and Paula get captured, you're following this woman and I'm like, wait a second, is she just in like a brawling thong or something like that? You're following this woman? Like, it's so hard to tell, but it's also like, there's the goofy, like face, like just smiling or something like that. Like this feels something out of Dragon Quest, which, to be fair, a lot of this system is based on Dragon Quest.
Oh yeah. Well, what I really like about Earthbound, pacing-wise, is it never really settles in itself. Like, it's always sort of redefining where it's going to go. There's some towns, like Foresight's a crazy town. And then sometimes, like, you're going to, like, these alternate realms. It is very much it's based in America. It's meant to be like a modern take on an RPG, but it's still not afraid to just dig into that weird fantasy flair sometimes. And yeah, it just goes to some wild places. And I'm kind of curious about Bloops. Like, how much did you know about Earthbound? Like, did you know exactly where things were going?
No, I had no idea of Earthbound other than Smash Brothers. I knew Gygus was the final boss, or spoilers. I knew Gygus was probably the final boss, but I wasn't really sure how he played into the plot or what exactly Gygus was. So I completely agree that the pacing and the themes feel quite varied. I noticed around Freed specifically, once you get to Jeff, firstly, that was really well paced in terms of you've been with Ness for so long, now let's completely switch up location. Everything goes from these towns just sort of being weird to now having more of an extraterrestrial kind of vibe to it, with sort of Gygus and the aliens now getting involved once you're getting to Saturn Valley. I totally did not expect that shift in the story, but I think everything gets a lot better once the alien kind of component gets integrated into the main plot that you're following. Plus, the other human characters that don't know PSI are also now involved in this journey with you, outside of just Ness and Paula. I think it's really well paced and it's a good build up, but just enough of a twist to really keep things from feeling stale.
Yeah, I like that they set up sort of the alien plot a little bit with the fact that that animals are being driven mad, and so is humans. So you got to beat them up in order to make them normal again. It's like the whole tamed aspect that they talk about. And so I didn't reach the point. Like, I think I was just starting to get to the alien bits with Jeff when I left off, but I was aware of a lot of stuff. I don't know what you're doing in, I know the early game more than I know the mid game. And I also know the final boss, because everybody talks about that final fight with Gygas and how just he makes you feel so uneasy, and he's just so, unexpected for what he is, to not go into full details.
I think backtracking a little to what you said with the thing with wild dogs and the crows being tamed, it's something I picked up on, because you're not just vulporizing this dog, you're taming it, you're being calm. And obviously this whole idea is sort of well known now with Undertale of just saving enemies rather than defeating them. But, sure, that's from Earthbound, expanded on in Undertale, no doubt. But it's really interesting that Earthbound came up with that concept, even if it wasn't so fleshed out. And I think that also extends to the nobody came dialogue, a staple quote from Undertale. But it came from Earthbound when an enemy in battle tries to get an ally, but they don't come. And again, it's just totally backtracking a few more points. Just really emphasizes the feeling that Earthbound's very modern and different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We mentioned the ending very loosely there. Bloops, did you know the solution to winning that battle?
I don't
talking
know
about Brain.
So I don't know how to spoil it, but the whole you can't just attack them head on. You've got to do something a bit extra to win the final battle.
Oh, that's cool.
I stumbled into that on accident, to be completely honest. But when I did do it, I was like, oh yeah, I've seen this in a YouTube video 10 years ago. I know what to do now.
All right. I wasn't sure if that was something you discovered yourself or not, because I knew of it as well. But it'd be super interesting for someone just to discover that on their own, though, because even when you know, though, it still feels really special when you pull it off.
Oh, that's cool.
I fully got that, because again, I knew of it, but I forgot exactly what it was when I was playing. So as soon as I did it, I remembered from, again, YouTube videos from a long time ago. But it still felt very special. And I don't want to spoil too much, but the CRT static effects you get towards the end of that battle, I can only imagine how well that actually worked on an original CRT you'd be playing this on. Especially with the fourth wall break that happens, but I don't want to spoil too much.
The game is very good at making you reflect as well, because in that final battle, you see glimpses of the rest of the world, but also over the course of the game, you're being your photos being taken, the Fuzzy Pickles thing, and when you're rolling credits, you see every Fuzzy Pickles picture that's been taken.
I
it's
wonder if
this
that's
has
what
been
it
a
would
big journey.
Be leading to, because my God, that guy started showing up a lot.
Yeah. But yeah, you never spend too much time in one place, and then when you see it all laid out like that, it's this game has a lot of stuff packed into that 22-hour runtime.
Yeah, you can just feel the specialness of it, just because it plays so different. The setting is so different from any other RPG at the time, because even if you compare it to the Shin Megami Tensei stuff, that is also not fantasy, but it's future apocalypse. This is modern day kids just running around a somewhat normal town. So it's you don't get that really at all. And I honestly cannot think of another game that does it like that. But it's also obviously the battle system is heavily influenced by Dragon Quest. And I looked it up to see where Earthbound came out in relation to Dragon Quest. And Dragon Quest V came out in 1992. And Earthbound was 94 in Japan, and 6 was, I believe, 96 or 95. I can't remember which, but I think it was just a little bit later. So it was right between those two. And I've still not played 5 yet, but could you see the influence of 5 on this game, John? Because I know you've played 5.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of the relationships, I'd say, are quite similar to 5, but also, the whole 5 is all about making a family and and winning over monsters to be part of your team. I think you can, like, while Earthbound doesn't dabble into that, you can definitely see how both of them kind of led into Pokemon. Like, Pokemon took a bit from Dragon Quest, a bit from Earthbound, and then made its own thing. But yeah, absolutely. What was I gonna say? It's left my mind now. Move on.
Well, I do want to talk about that Paula section because I just think it's rather funny, especially that Bloops and I think made the same mistake where you need to go to
Mistake likely means we're both on the same pace.
Yes. So, you got to save Paula from this cult that likes to paint everything blue and wear hoods, and it's a little unfortunate. It's like, oh no.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, there's Paula in this through this one cave. There's this cult place where there's all these guys lined up, but I can't get through them. So I don't know what's going on there. So I'll just head to this other cave, and I'm sure this is where I'll be able to find the cult leader and defeat him. So you go through the entire cave as Ness. That's not where it is. That's where you get the next of the songs. That's where the sanctuary is. And I beat that entire section with just Ness. So Ness was like level 26, 27. And I get Paula. I finally figured out, you have to speak to specific people within the cult leader's house in order to fight the cult leader. And I'm so over leveled at that point. But then I get Paula and she's level 1 and I'm level 20 something. I'm like, oh no, this sucks.
I had it the exact same way, but to be totally honest, I don't know how I missed that I'm supposed to be saving Paula first. I was just like, this is how the game goes. I do that. Oh wait, there was the thing in the house of the electric I never figured out how to get through. Maybe now I finished the dungeon, I can go back to that. No, I was supposed to do that first. Sorry, I didn't notice. But I was so impressed in retrospect that I've saved the restore point I made just before that boss because I just want to keep that moment cemented forever.
That's cool.
Nice.
I remembered what I was going to say. So
okay,
we spoke about this in the intro, but Earthbound has that roll down health system. And I think Bloops would have gotten a lot of use out of this in the late game. In the early game, you can use it still, but like when you're dealing with big numbers, like when you have like 700 health and an enemy does like 800 attack, you have to like very quickly just try and get to a healing spell immediately. And that's something very unique to Earthbound. Like with Dragon Quest, if an enemy does that much damage, you're dead. But here you've got a little time to sort of recover while it runs down. And I think it's just such a clever system. And like the further you get, the more you can lean on it.
Mm-hmm. I noticed it during that fight where I just played as Ness. That's when I first was like really could see the effects of it. But yeah, go ahead, Bloops.
I totally used it a lot. Sort of in the early stages, around even when I just unlocked Jeff, I was thinking I get the idea, but I can't quite pull it off. But as all my party members started hitting triple-digit lives or HP, I was like, oh, I get it. It totally makes sense. And by the end game, I could swear I'm like minus 1,000 HP, like below where I should be dead. But hey, I've got time to heal. A lot of the time as well, if I was really in a pinch, I'd just quickly switch to auto battle, which, by the way, I love that feature so much.
I never actually used it. Huh.
I don't know if I've used auto battle, to be honest.
I used it a lot for grinding. And I used it in 2 bosses, I believe. One was the Magicant boss. I won't say too much for spoilers, but if you know, you know. And I believe the other was halfway into the fight with the second dungeon, the mole, just before we get Paula. Was that the mole? The second dungeon, to say the least.
I think it's the mole, yeah.
I used it halfway through that because I was like, I'm out of MP. I don't really have any items. Nothing else I can do. Might as well just auto.
Makes sense.
When you get further on in the game, like in the beginning, maybe there's a little bit of grinding, but as you get further on, grinding isn't really a thing. And I think
Fully.
that's part of because of that roll down system. Because like you're never dealt an attack you can't handle. Whereas in many other RPGs, there's like a boss that can one hit you. Whereas Earthbound doesn't really have that.
I definitely had to grind for
Completely
that for the first boss. Because there was times where I fought it, I died. All right, let's go through the cave again, get another level, try again. I fought it, I died. Go back, and I just could not beat that first boss until I was like level 11. So I did have to grind up a bit. But that's the only
I
time.
had the same experience. Like on it, a lot of grinding. Tucson, a bit of back and forth, but not too big a deal. Freed, I was just about getting by, but didn't really need to grind or get my health back. After that point, I was pretty much just fine to get into any battle and come out of it unscathed. Give it another 3-4 battles, maybe visit a hotel, but yeah, the grinding pretty much stopped by the time Jeff joined the party.
Yeah, it seemed like that was going to be the case. So I don't know how to put this because I'm not. The thing is, I really enjoyed my time with Earthbound. Like, it's one of those games where I do eventually want to go back and fully finish it. I don't know if it's going to be anytime recently, but it's one of those that's definitely on that bucket list of, yes, I want to finish this up. But every time I played this, I swear I don't know why it was the case. I found myself kind of drifting to sleep. And I don't know whether it's so cozy that I'm like that's causing that, or because I don't want to call it dull, because the quirky writing is great. The scenarios are, weird and wonderful. Like, everything about this game is really good, but for some reason I kept falling asleep. I don't know why. I've never had that experience with the game before.
Wild. I'm trying to just understand where you're coming from here, because like for me, I feel like Earthbound is always trying to shift up what it's doing to the point where I never really feel like it's dull. I don't know. I don't know. I can't diagnose what's up here.
I completely agree with John. What's wrong with you, Gary?
Yeah, I don't know. I trust me, I know I'm the weird one in this one. But I'd be perfectly fine. Like, okay, my son's just playing off in the corner. I'm going to get some Earthbound in while I'm watching him. And I start playing, and I'm sitting on the couch in handheld mode, and all of a sudden I'm just like, okay, what's going on here? Like, why am I getting so dozy? And I'm like analyzing it. It's like, no, I'm enjoying the battles. I'm enjoying the weird characters I'm meeting. I'm enjoying figuring out where they're going. Why is this happening to me? I don't understand.
Well, at least if you ever can't sleep, you can just play Earthbound.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. I found myself a sleep aid, I guess.
You went to Magic Kent. You played it all in your dreams.
Yeah, there
Exactly.
you go. Do you have any complaints about the game, Bloops, since you did play through it all? Is there anything that stuck out to you as like,
One thing I didn't really like, which I imagine is more so a problem with RPGs in general, to be honest. Haven't played many, so I can't say for sure. But especially in On It, an issue for, I'd say, the first half of the game, really, you can recover your health and MP and downed allies really easily, but you have to go so far back to like a hotel or Ness's house to do that. And it just seems kind of redundant to me when you can do it totally easily. It just wastes so much time walking there. I assume it's just a trope of RPGs, but it just felt really monotonous in practice. It was pretty much fixed by the time I learned teleport, because you can just go to Saturn Valley, where, the doctor and the inn to rest is right there as you teleport. But yeah, early game, basically just a lot of backtracking and running back and forth just to recover health was just boring.
Yeah, that's fair.
It did feel farther away than other games for sure.
Yeah, there's definitely other RPGs that have that problem, but I think Earthbound specifically feels like it's made for multiple party members, and it's not like the early game isn't really balanced around it just being Ness. You fight weaker enemies, but there is definitely a lot more back and forth getting back to your house than there is in the later game. So yeah, I totally get that. Yeah.
I never actually went back to my house because I found I was just making so much money. It was like, I never had to worry about funds. Like,
Neither did I.
your dad loads you
At
up.
at one point, I was a little lost, so I looked up a walkthrough. I'll admit, I only did it for one page,
That's fine.
but I saw in brackets it said like, at this point you want to get a certain item for Jeff that helps bosses. So you'll want to probably grind and stock up money. I had millions in my like ATM just waiting there. Like I did not have to worry about money the whole game.
That's
It's so good that your dad, you never see, is just giving you this endless pool of money every day. And I love in like Smash Ultimate, your dad is just the spirit, just the phone is the spirit in that game.
That is wonderful. Apparently he's just making bank off of his son going around beating the heck out of everything.
Apparently,
I will say that's another minor complaint I had. I didn't realize that defeating enemies gives you money and it went to the ATM. I don't think it was ever made clear that's like where the money's coming from in the ATM. Just would have been helpful to know.
Yeah. That Alpha Line in our live chat mentioned something I also noticed while I was playing through the game. Frame rate slows to a crawl when a bunch of enemies pop up on screen. Not just enemies. I noticed when it was the crowded town sections, it would slow to a crawl. I'm like, this is an RPG. Why is this happening? Like it's not like even that intensive of a looking game. So it's like really throwing me off.
The part that really makes it apparent is at some point in the game, you're with the full party, but then it dwindles down back to just Ness and Paula. As soon as you walk away from your other party members, the frame rate goes way up. And it's not just an issue of crowded areas. As your party gets bigger, your frame rates are getting lower.
So there's something a remake could help, John.
That's true. That's true. I'm curious now, Bloops. Are you eyeing up Mother 3 after playing Earthbound?
I had a friend who has seen me tweeting about this game who said, like, you need to play Mother 3. Come on, you need to play Mother 3. I plan to get to it, definitely, at some point before my demise. But I think I might try Earthbound Beginnings first.
Sure, yeah.
That's
because it seems to have a lot more link to Mother 2 in terms of plot stuff, which is probably spoilers to say.
Just
but
now.
I'll definitely finish the whole trilogy. I'm just going to go for Earthbound Beginnings first.
Sweet, yeah. And as we said in like the pre-bit, I feel like Earthbound Beginnings kind of makes a greater appreciation for Earthbound. Like you're seeing where all the ideas came from. Like it is a bit derivative in aspects, but like it's cool to see how it kind of built up to being. Like what it became on Super Nintendo.
And you get the sense, especially after playing Earthbound a bit and seeing how little grinding you need to do. One thing I've heard about Earthbound Beginnings a lot is how much grinding is necessary in that game. And it is an NES RPG, but it looks like they took that to
Although
heart.
Earthbound Beginnings does have a run button though. I don't know why they didn't bring that over to Earthbound, but you can run in the NES game.
Because you have the bike! You love the bike!
You got the bike!
Do you think they didn't give you a run button because how much slowdown there was anyway?
Maybe, yeah.
Part of me, like, I know the main character of Earthbound Beginnings is called Ninten. Part of me wishes that Ness's name was instead Doe. Ninten and Doe.
Yeah. I mean, you can make that happen. You can call Ness whatever you want to call him.
That is true.
Speaking of, what did we all call our party?
Oh, I do what I always do in RPGs.
I'm boring. I stuck with the default names. Did you give your characters different names?
I named it after us.
Oh.
Oh.
Who was Paula?
How did you react?
Sorry, carry on.
Oh no, you go ahead. Who was who?
Oh yeah, I asked who was Paula.
I was Ness. John was Jeff.
Okay.
Derek was
Pooh.
And my partner in crime, who has just helped me a lot with my own videos, was what Paula was named after.
Oh, nice.
That's cute.
That is cute.
How did you react when it asks, like, it asks your favorite food, which is like a normal thing, and this is like, what's your favorite thing? It's like, what does that mean?
I don't know. I said video games. Or just games.
Yeah, pretty much same. For favorite thing, I was just like, games. For favorite food, I just put Scran in all caps with an exclamation point.
I don't even know what Scran
I find
is.
it funny if you do like the randomize option on favorite thing. It has like PSI Rockin', PSI whatever, and then it goes to PSI Gaming. I don't think I realized that gaming was a term that's been around for that long.
Isn't that the name of
That-
Ness's first move, like a PSI attack? Is PSI game?
Yeah. So your favorite
yeah.
thing is whatever you call that.
I did not
what
know.
your favorite thing is.
I had no idea that was like, man, that's a weird name for a PSI attack, but never.
Yeah.
So Bloops here had PSI Scran or whatever.
Yeah.
No, Scran was the food.
Food, okay.
Which
your
is just
favorite
a old
That's what your mum
English
makes you.
slang term.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the favorite thing, that was just like the same as you, really. Games.
I had no idea that was the connection. Oh my god. Well, what'd you name that, John?
I think I was boring and did like just randomize. I think PSI Rockin' was what I usually go with.
I think that's the canon name.
Okay. That's so
But
funny.
you can be weird. Like you can say like your live audience says you can say your favorite food is ass, and then your mum makes you some ass. Which, I don't know.
That's amazing. That's so funny. But yeah, the thing is, despite my sleepiness, I get why this is popular. I get why people like love this. I also understand why I might not have clicked right away with American audiences until that word of mouth came through. So
I mean, the marketing was weird too. It's like this game stinks. It's like, does that make you want to buy it?
It was weird to hear. It didn't come out.
That was a part of a $2 million promotional campaign, according to the Wikipedia. You spent $2 million on that thing. Why?
No.
But yeah, their promo here was awful. They just didn't say anything. They said, you want to buy this game, get a plane ticket. Man, it was a costly endeavor, wasn't it?
And yet it worked on me.
Yep. Oh boy. Yeah, looking at it, it only sold 140,000 copies in the U.S. In Japan, it sold 518,000. So, yeah.
That's a good number for Japan.
It's a great number for Japan.
Well, I guess relatively for the time, like 100K isn't like it's not like a bomb. It's not dreadful, but it's not. It doesn't set the world on fire. Yeah.
Oh wow. This is wild. So according to looking at this, GamePro reported that they received more reader complaints about the game's scratch and sniff ad than any other 1995 advertisement. Wow.
I guess I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Apparently, the other reason the campaign was so expensive is that they decided to include a strategy guide with each game. This game does not need a strategy guide. I'm sorry.
No, I understand it. Not necessarily to get through the game, but just for some of the deeper story elements, the lore, some item upgrades. Like, I didn't really understand. With Jeff, you can get broken parts, and then when you sleep, once you have a certain level IQ, those parts turn into weapons. I didn't understand fully how that works, plus the order of what weapons are better until late game. So I can understand a strategy guide working out for this game. I assume a 90s strategy guide did not contain any of that information, though.
Probably not.
Yeah.
I think it makes it stand out too. Like if you're in a shop and you just see like regular Super Nintendo games, like, whoa, why is this one 3 times the size of the other ones? But I've heard stories of people like picking up big box Earthbound in, like a bargain bin back in that day. And then, obviously, as NES came to smash and Earthbound became more of like a cult classic, suddenly, it's just shot up in price.
Yeah.
So some people would have paid like $5 back in the day at one point. Yeah.
Whew. Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. I guess is there any other thing, anything else we want to talk about with Earthbound? We've covered battles, covered a bit of the story and the quirkiness, and honestly, great translation.
The game has a lot of comedy. I'd like to know what your favorite parts were.
Oh, there's a lot of good moments. There is a lot of comedy, but there's also a lot of heart as well. There's lots of really good, just felt like moments that you just sort of feel.
The way everybody feels about Paula was a good feels moment for me. But go on, John. Whoops.
Yeah. I always liked when you finally get all the melody pieces and it plays that gorgeous 8 melody song. Again, I don't want to spoil anything, but there's just a really good scene there. And
I like how freaky it is, though, before you get all the melodies and you listen to it through the Soundstone. It's just good.
Yeah. It's a weird feeling, but it feels good once you do it. In terms of like just funny moments, though, like there's almost too many to pick. I'll let Derek speak while I think about mine.
I mean, I don't have as many funny moments, but the two that stand out to me, just thinking right now, is just really funny moments were, honestly, fighting the cops. Because the last one was like I just want you beat up those other 4. I'm done. Just like I'm not doing this. I'm out. The other one that got to me was actually Jeff meeting his father. It's like it's funny, but it's also kind of sad. It's like, oh, it's been 10 years since we've seen you. I'll see you again in 10 years. We should meet up again another 10 years. It just makes him seem so uncaring, which is darkly humorous. It's like, oof, but it's also just kind of funny. Also, just some of the really pithy NPCs you can talk to, where it's like, I'm not busy, so I can tell you about this stuff. Nah, I'm good. Oh, turns out I am busy. So, screw you.
It's funny how a lot of NPCs refer to Earthbound within the universe as well. I think it's in Foresight. There's like there's a building where it's like Earthbound 2 is in development or something like that. And I guess they made Earthbound 2 eventually.
It's true.
There's one moment I didn't really like with that, which might be a bit petty. But Frank, the first mini-boss of the game, he's like up your arse, he's trying to kill you, and then once you beat him, he's just talking about how he's playing Earthbound as like this really cool character, aka Ness. Frank, mate, why are you just trying to kill me, and now you think you're really cool for being me? Like, it didn't quite like make a lot of sense to me at the time, but minor complaint, man.
I hate Frank. Despise that man.
I could not stand Frank.
I barely remember him. It's like, oh, I went in, kicked his butt. All right, bye.
Yeah, I only remember his name because the Frankenstein robot he made.
Oh, yeah.
If it wasn't for that, I'd have no clue who Frank was.
Well, any other thoughts? Because otherwise, I think we've said what we wanted to say.
Yeah. It's just it's a funny, cozy game with a lot of heart and very ahead of its time. And I think it's still very much worth playing today.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's. Oh, go ahead, Bloops. Sorry.
It's okay. Just one thing that I think had a lot of charm about the game is all the people in Tucson are like hyping up Paula and giving her all this clout for her PSI abilities. And then once you finally rescue her, I like that her regular attack, the bash, does like nothing, but her PSI is so powerful, and it really emphasizes that like there's a perfect marriage between the story and the gameplay in that moment, and I think that was really sweet.
Yeah. There's a lot of good moments. And like, I like how each character so far feels distinct with Jeff and Ness and Paula. And I did not expect Ness to be the healer of the group. that caught me off guard. Yeah. Paula's the powerhouse. And Ness is the healer.
Who probably doesn't get as much as the other characters? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
I had the opposite in my playthrough. Paula was the dedicated healer. Ness was the powerhouse. Oh. His bash was doing more than the PSI. So
wow, yeah. At the point I was at, she didn't have any kind of healing abilities yet, so I was just relying on Ness. But what were you saying, John?
I was just saying, Pooh gets a cool self-contained chapter, but I don't think they really define him in the party as much as the other guys. Like, he just kind of tags along from there, really.
He leaves soon after as well.
Yeah, definitely doesn't have the same presence as Jeff and Paula.
Yeah, Pooh just seems like a, buy one get one free. I guess I'll take it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah. I think we've said all we wanted to say about Earthbound, but we still need to give our final verdict. Would you recommend it as an N yeso, or tell people to stay away with an N oh no? John, let's start with you.
Hate this game. Never enjoyed it. And this is why PlayStation is better, baby. Yeah, I think you should play it.
Yeah. Bloops.
Hey guys, welcome to my review. Yeah, I liked it. It had some cool moments. I think it was really good. You should play Earthbound, guys.
Yeah, I'm in agreement.
Fantastic.
I'm in agreement. 3 for 3 on NSO. Honestly, did anybody expect otherwise? I think it is more of an excuse just to get us to play, which, hey, it worked. It did the job and got somebody brand new to enjoy Earthbound, and I will get to it. I promise I will finish this game eventually. But even what I played, even just beyond a little bit, I like that it changed up just enough for me to really appreciate there by like, oh, I didn't realize Jeff had his own dedicated section. That's cool. That's unique for the time. Taking a little bit of Dragon Quest IV for this. That's cool. So I'm excited to see what kind of other twists it has that I just did not know about before. So yeah, absolutely recommend. Give it a try if you want something quirky. And honestly, it may be a bit more advanced than other beginner level RPGs, but I still think a pretty decent beginner level RPG as far as like.
Oh yeah,
starting out.
as someone who's not an RPG fan, I really loved it, so I can attest to that whole beginner's idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what about all of you? Have you played Earthbound before, or was this your first time? But before we go, where can everyone find you at? Bloops, let's start with you. Plug away.
You can find me on Twitter at Bloops_, and you can find me here on YouTube at Bloops. I've just wrapped up a series that I've been working on since 2018, I believe. So if you want something nice that has a start and end point, you can check me out there. As well as that, I'm going to be working on new stuff, which should be releasing in February. So, look forward to that as well. Thank you very much.
Glad to have you on. And John, I know we work together, but where can everyone find you at?
Well, you can find me on social platforms at JohnComs, and you can also find the work I do over at Good Vibes Gaming. I've just made a video about the Wii forecast channel and how some games would utilize the weather data within the games themselves. Like in Mario and Sonic, if it is cloudy outside on the forecast channel, it'll be cloudy in the game. Wild. I think you should watch that video. Yeah, that's me.
There you go. That's him. And yeah, thank you both for joining me. And if all of you joining us enjoyed this episode, let us know in the comments, and please consider supporting us at patreon.com/gvgaming, which includes our live audience tier that will allow you to watch Game Club live as it's being recorded. But Patreon Request Month still has one final week to go, which means this next game will be the last, at least until we do this again. And now it's time for the Wheel of Games to choose that final selection for the Patreon Request Month, as I'm joined by my special guests, Moriarty and FTA. Are you both ready to see what game we're playing?
I'm so ready.
I'm on Donkey Kong 64.
If only that was actually on the service.
Let's play that game in a week. That'll be fun.
Oh, God. That one, I think it took me about 20 hours to complete. Yeah, so RPG length, my God.
I never finished it. Too many damn coconuts to collect.
There's a lot, but let's see if we have to do any collections. Let's see what we're actually going to do. Let's bring up the Wheel of Games full of our Patreon requests and see what the final request for this Patreon Request Month is going to be. We are going to be playing, oh my God, Mario's Super Picross on the SNES from Azran 127.
I mean,
Sounds like a puzzle game.
It is very much a puzzle game, so I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to leave you guys unsure about what the heck we're playing until we get to the beginning of next episode. So yeah, there you have it. We'll see you next time as we cover Mario's Super Picross as requested by Azran. Thanks for watching, and until next time, Bye.